Sales is one of the most misunderstood professions in the world, and this channel is dedicating to fixing that. I'm Josh, the sales guy, and this is Improve or Die Trying. Today, we're talking about something that affects every salesperson. Sales has a reputation problem. And if you've been in sales long enough, you've probably experienced something like this. You got the signature, you shook hands, and you walked out the door feeling like you just closed a great deal. And before you even get home, the client's called the office to cancel. Now ask yourself a question. If the product was good, if the solution made sense, if the buyer really needed it, why did the deal collapse the moment the pressure disappeared? That question is the reason that this channel exists. If you were to ask 10 people what they think about sales, you'll hear the same words over and over again: pushy, manipulative, and annoying. And honestly, sometimes they're not wrong. Because if we're being honest, the reputation, it didn't come out of nowhere. Movies show us as sleazy, dishonest, and desperate. And when the wrong salesperson shows up, sometimes that stereotype isn't that far off. But here's the thing about sales: salespeople are involved in some of the biggest decisions that people will ever make: homes, cars, major improvement projects, financial decisions like loans and investments. These are not small purchases, these are life altering decisions. So, the same profession that people distrust is also the one they rely on when stakes are at their highest. And that paradox creates real tension. It doesn't matter if you're new to sales, if you've been doing it for years, or you're on the edge of burnout. Eventually, we're all going to start asking ourselves the same thing: is there a better way to do this? But is there? Pick up most sales books, and what do you find? 10 magical phrases to close the deal? A closing hack to make a quick buck? Cheap psychological tricks to push somebody over the edge? Those techniques are designed to move somebody just far enough to get the short term outcome that you're looking for. And because sometimes they work, many people become convinced that this is the only way that sales can be done. So, what do? Do you just accept this? That this is how the profession has to work? Do you tell yourself, well, I guess manipulation is just part of the job? Or do you find a better way? For me, the answer was very simple. I needed to get out the shovel and start digging. Because the old tricks of the trade, they were never the way I wanted to treat people anyway. And today's customer, it's very different. Way different than the way sales books were written. Everything has changed in the last few years. The modern buyer has Google in their pocket, countless reviews that they can look at, comparison shopping tools, and now AI. In just a few taps, they can know as much or sometimes more than the person that they're sitting across the table from. So the old approach doesn't just feel wrong, it's becoming obsolete. And this is what's forced me to make a decision. Because I love this profession. I love the freedom it provides. I love the income. And I truly love helping people to solve real problems in their lives. I love this job too much to just let it turn into something that's shallow and transactional. So I've made a choice. I'm going to improve the way that this profession is practiced or die trying. Not too long ago, I started hosting a weekly meeting for a large group of salespeople. It wasn't mandatory, it wasn't part of corporate training, and it was just simply a place where we could just sit around and talk honestly about our profession. And in the beginning, I would pick a topic and we'd talk about it. But after a while, I discovered something. People are hungry, and they're hungry for more than just a clever line or a quick hack. What they're looking for is not just to get through a tough buyer. I mean, those things are important, and they are, but it was deeper than that. So I started talking about something different. First, I talked about the foundation of what a salesperson should be. And then I covered the framework of what it takes to become that salesperson. And eventually, the plans to talk about the execution of how it all shows up in real conversations with real buyers. But something interesting happened along the way. People began to realize that sales wasn't just about pressure at all. It wasn't about hacks or magical lines or about manipulating somebody into a decision. It was about something else entirely. The best salespeople in that room, they weren't doing any of those things. What they were doing was thinking about the situation clearly. They understood the buyer and they understood the decision that that person was trying to make. And they knew how to guide the conversation in a way that made sense for everybody that was involved. And over time, those conversations started to grow. More people showed up, more ideas were shared, and week after week, I kept coming back to the same realization. Sales is a craft, just like cooking, just like woodworking. It's something you can study, something you can practice, and it's something that you can improve all your life. And eventually I realized something else. These conversations, they couldn't just stay in one meeting room. There are thousands, maybe millions of people that are asking the same questions. How do I do the job well? How do I build trust with my customers? How do I make a living in this profession without becoming somebody that I don't respect? That's another reason that this channel exists. But there's so much of sales that the sales world just gets wrong here. The common belief in sales is about convincing somebody to buy something. And that's what most training teaches: how to handle objections, how to close harder, how to memorize scripts, how to deliver magical lines that somehow will push somebody to sign up. And on the surface, I guess it makes sense. If the goal is to get somebody to buy, convincing them must be the job. But that idea misses something fundamental. And it's about how people actually make decisions. Customers don't want to be convinced. They want to feel confident. They want to understand what they're buying. They want to know the risks. And most importantly, they want to feel like the decision is their decision. When a customer tries to push a decision, or I'm sorry, when a salesperson tries to push a decision, the customer's going to feel it immediately. Their guard goes up. They start questioning everything. Even if the product is good, even if the solution makes sense, pressure creates resistance. And that's why so many sales conversations simply fall apart. Not because the product is wrong, not because the customer doesn't need it, but because the conversation stopped being about understanding and it started being about winning. And the moment the sale becomes a contest, trust disappears. So if in sales it's not about convincing people, what is it about? In my opinion, it's about alignment. Alignment between the buyer, the problem they're trying to solve, and the decision that they're about to make. The job of a great salesperson isn't to push somebody towards a purchase. The job is to help somebody see their situation clearly, to understand what they actually need, to understand the trade offs, to understand the consequences of doing something or simply doing nothing. Because when people see their situation clearly, something interesting happens. They don't need to be pushed. They'll decide. And when the decision is truly theirs, the entire conversation changes. And the pressure, it disappears. And trust increases. And the outcome, it makes sense for everyone that's involved. That's the side of sales that almost nobody talks about. That's the craft. And once you start seeing sales this way, you'll realize something important. You're not trying to win the conversation, you're trying to understand it. So, what does that actually look like, though, in the real world? Because understanding alignment is one thing, but applying it in the middle of a real conversation, that's something entirely different. When a customer says the price is too high, when they say they need to think about it, when they want to get more quotes, most salespeople or most sales teaches us to just push and just keep pushing. Overcome that objection, redirect the conversation, maintain control at all costs. But when you think about sales as alignment instead of persuasion, the conversation changes. You stop trying to force the outcome and you start trying to understand the decision, like what the buyer is actually worried about, what information they're missing, or sometimes what belief is holding them back from making a decision and moving forward with confidence. Those are the questions that matter. And when you work through those questions honestly, something interesting happens. Customers stop feeling like they're being sold and they start feeling like they're being helped. That's what this channel's about. Understanding the customer and how they make decisions, breaking down the psychology behind those moments, and helping the salespeople to build the skills that are necessary to succeed without relying on pressure or manipulation. Because when you approach sales this way, you don't just close more deals, you build something much more important. You build trust. So here's my challenge to you: be patient with me. This channel is new. And just like any craft, learning how to create great content is something that I'm going to improve at over time. Some videos will be better than others. Some ideas will evolve. But I promise you this: every time you spend a few minutes here, I will make it worth your while. I will do my best, but not with gimmicks and not with shortcuts, but with honest conversations about the craft of sales. Because improvement, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time through study, reflection, practice, and refinement. What this channel is about, you're not going to just get better results. You're going to build something way more important. You're going to build a better you all along the way. Sales will probably always be misunderstood. There will always be people that see it as pressure, as tricks, as manipulation. But that's not what the profession has to be. At its best, sales is something much more interesting than that. It's the study of people, the art of communication, the discipline of helping somebody to make a decision that makes sense. That's the side of the profession that deserves more attention. And that's the side we're going to explore here. Sales will always have highs and lows. There will be great weeks, and there will be weeks that make you question why you got into sales in the first place. That part's never really going to go away. What will change is how the professional interprets things. The people who treat sales like a craft, who study it, who practice it, who keep improving, those are the ones who build real careers. Not overnight, but over time. So if you're someone who wants to get better at this profession, someone who believes there must be a better way to do sales, then you're in the right place. And I will do everything I can to make the time we share valuable. Because the goal here is simple: to keep improving every day, every conversation, and at every opportunity. So, welcome to the channel. Again, I'm Josh, the sales guy. And if you want content like this, please consider subscribing. Because around here, we're going to keep getting better one conversation at a time. Because in this profession, there are only two options: improve or die trying.